This video is brought to you by Surfshark. Safety and security online are critically important, and you can protect yourself with Surfshark. Get 83% off and 3 months for free through the link in the description below. More on them in a bit. Today's story takes place in the Florida Keys, the archipelago off the southern coast of Florida. As such, the Keys are the southernmost territory of the continental United States and are actually closer to Cuba than to the motherland. On the 10th of January 1861, the state of Florida seceded from the Union, joining the Confederate States in the Civil War. The island and the city of Key West, however, remained under the Union throughout the war. But 121 years later, Key West would lead the archipelago into a rebellion which would spark the foundation of a new rogue micronation, the Conch Republic. The epic story of the Conch Republic's independence begins with the most mundane of occurrences. A painful, boring, excruciating roadblock. On the 18th of April 1982, the US Border Patrol had set a checkpoint on US Route 1 in front of Skeeter's Last Chance Saloon in Florida City. Their intent was to search all cars driving out of Key West and into the mainland for drugs and illegal immigrants. Route 1 was the only road out of town, and very quickly traffic backed up for 19 miles. Enraged tourists had their travel plans completely thrown into the air by this unexpected action of the Border Patrol, a force supposed to guard the national borders, not set up controls within the state. Soon, news spread that a checkpoint had placed a stranglehold on Key West. Tourists intending to travel there panicked and cancelled their reservations. This was a hit to the economy of Key West, which was heavily reliant on tourism. Hundreds of thousands of dollars were lost overnight. And what if the Border Patrol decided to establish permanent checkpoints? This could spell the end of the Keys. News of the roadblock immediately reached the mayor of Key West, Dennis Wardlow. Normally, he would have been notified by the authorities. In fact, Wardlow heard the news from his dad, an amateur radio operator who had picked up radio chatter from the border force. It turns out that the federal government had failed to notify Wardlow, the county sheriff, the Florida state representative, and even the state governor. Mayor Wardlow was not one to faff about, and he contacted the Border Patrol captain in charge. He demanded to know who had ordered the checkpoint and why. The captain could have done with some PR training, as he simply replied that it was none of the mayor's business, to which Wardlow replied, "Don't tell a conch, it's none of your business." Conch, by the way, is the nickname for inhabitants of the Keys. And as a proud conch, the mayor sprung into decisive action. He consulted with the city council and the main business leaders to discuss what they labeled as an attack on Key West's sovereignty. They decided to file for an injunction at Miami's federal district court to get the roadblock lifted. On April the 22nd, Dennis Wardlow and a group of angry conchs flew to Miami on the private plane piloted by their attorney, David Paul Horan. But Miami's US district judge refused to issue the injunction, leaving Dennis with only one choice: rebellion. As he was approached by reporters outside the court, he declared, "By establishing that border, they have declared us a foreign nation. We're tired of the US government picking on little Key West." And then he dropped his bomb. "Tomorrow at noon, the Florida Keys will secede from the Union." In front of the amused and stunned reporters, Wardlow vowed to negotiate only with President Reagan or Vice President Bush. He concluded, "I guess they think we're kidding, and we're not." As the small party flew back to their home base, lawyer/pilot Horan enacted the first act of conch defiance. He launched the craft into a nosedive, making a low pass over the roadblock. By the time Wardlow and friends landed back in Key West, the news had spread. Many conchs were supportive of the secession, but the enthusiasm was not unanimous. County representatives made it clear to the mayor that they didn't want to have anything to do with his plans. They even warned him that his move was career suicide. Ordinary citizens bombarded Wardlow's office with worried phone calls asking if their US dollars were still valid. Other less well-meaning inhabitants sent death threats to Wardlow's family. But Dennis was determined to go through with his designs. I should clarify that the mayor and his acolytes never considered formally seceding from Florida and the United States, nor did they expect to receive international recognition. The whole idea was more of a PR stunt, or a massive prank designed to raise attention on how a poorly handled federal decision had endangered the livelihood of their community. By the morning of April the 23rd, Wardlow and his conspirators had formed the government of the Conch Republic. Dennis would be its prime minister, of course overseeing cabinet members such as the Secretary of Underwater Affairs and the Minister of Nutrition. The cabinet immediately received offers from volunteers who wanted to join the still non-existent armed forces of the Conch Republic. One of these volunteers, a guy called Tony, offered to fly his biplane over the Key West Naval Base and bomb the vessels moored there. It turns out that those ships were bursting with federal agents who had immediately convened over Key West, waiting for orders to arrest the mayor. Somehow, rumors of the impending attack reached a Miami Herald reporter, and from there, the admiral in charge at Key West. The admiral hurriedly phoned Wardlow, begging him not to make any rash decisions. What the officer and the press had failed to grasp, though, is that Tony the Bomber was planning to attack the Navy with only a certain type of ammunition, his own homemade conch fritters. These are a local delicacy prepared with freshly ground conch meat, garlic, onions, red peppers, jalapenos, Tabasco, and beer. Then you add egg, milk, salt, flour, and pepper, and leave it to rest in the fridge. You then scoop up this ball and then fry the hell out of it for 5 minutes. Why someone would want to waste such goodness by dumping it from a plane is beyond me, but I guess the gesture had some symbolic significance. The bombing, however, never took place. The big event of the day was staged at noon when Wardlow and his cabinet gathered in Clinton Square for their Declaration of Independence. The Stars and Stripes flag was lowered and replaced with a new blue and yellow banner of the Conch Republic. Wardlow then issued his proclamation: "We serve notice to the government in Washington to remove the roadblock or get ready to put up a permanent border to a new foreign land. If we're not equal, we'll get out." The federal government was present in the form of several special agents, Coast Guard sailors, and Navy personnel. 2 naval officers still stood in full gala uniform. But Dennis later declared that they appeared ready to take him down at any minute. As soon as he finished reading his proclamation, a loud drone announced the arrival of Tony's biplane. Conch fritters were dropped from the sky, and more of these spherical goodies started flying in Clinton Square, lobbed by the conchs against the feds. None of this was part of Wardlow's plans. The situation got even more out of hand when County Commissioner Joe Balbontin confronted one of the Navy officers and whacked him in the head with a stale loaf of Cuban bread. So it was time for Wardlow to step in. Riding the wave of ridicule, he declared war on the US, and he immediately surrendered to one of the officers. The Second American Civil War, or the 1-minute war, had ended, but the Conch Republic would not yield to unconditional surrender. In fact, the cabinet demanded $1 billion in foreign aid from Washington. In their eyes, it was fair compensation for the damage incurred during the long federal siege and the grueling onslaught of the Battle of Clinton Square. The US government's reply was a plain no. They would not pay the ridiculous amount of money. In fact, they would not pay any reparation for the economic damages caused by the roadblock. So the conchs had been conquered after all. Well, far from it, actually. Dennis the rebel mayor, David the flying attorney, Tony the fritter bomber, and Joe the wielder of the mighty loaf had attracted plenty of media attention with their antics. The resulting negative publicity for the federal government prompted the Border Patrol to finally remove their roadblock. The Conch Republic had triumphed. Even if in theory its territory coincides with the Florida Keys, it is not and never was an independent state, but rather a state of mind, a source of local pride, and an important booster for tourism. If you're lucky enough to visit these lands, make sure to get a t-shirt or bumper sticker bearing the Republic's legendary motto, "We seceded where others failed." Alright, we'll get back to today's video in just a quick moment. But first, a word from today's glorious sponsor, Surfshark. Here's something we've all learned over the years. At one point or another, the internet is gonna be kinda weird. There's people trying to steal your personal information, track your Instagram habits, to bombard you with ads, all of that unpleasantness. Fortunately, there's Surfshark who offer you all sorts of protection. One thing they have is HackClock. They search online for your passwords and let you know if it's popped up somewhere so that you can change it and keep nice and safe online. Also, streaming is it's just straight up better with Surfshark. You might often find that something you want to watch is not available in the country where you live. Fire up Surfshark, choose a different location, one of the many countries that they support, then fire up Netflix and you'll find, or whatever streaming service you prefer, and you'll find a whole bunch of other options. Surfshark is totally unlimited, so you can watch as much as you want, download as much as you want. No worries. Also, of course, they don't keep any logs. That's the whole point. They've also got great support and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Right now, you can get 83% off and 3 months for free at surfshark.deals/geographics, or just follow the link in the description below. And now back to today's video. In 1990, the mayor of Key West and Prime Minister of the Conch Republic, Captain Tony Tarracino, decided to appoint a Secretary General to whom he would delegate the day-to-day operations of this micro-state of mind. That honor was given to Peter Anderson, who took his role very seriously. So seriously that in 1994 he crashed the Summit of the Americas, succeeding in having his republic represented as an actual country. But it was not all fun and games. After the succession of the Conch, the federal, state, and local governments behaved like good buddies, and there were no sources of tension. But things were about to change on the morning of September the 20th, 1995. A local radio station, WPIK, reported that the 478th Civil Affairs Battalion of the US Army was to conduct some war games in the Florida Keys. More precisely, they were to stage a mock invasion and occupation of the islands. The military, however, had failed to notify Key West authorities. Scratch war games or military exercises, this made it a real invasion and assault on their sovereign republic. Anderson notified President Clinton and the heads of the armed forces that they were ready to mobilize and defend their nation. On September the 21st, the Conch Republic sailed forth to meet their foes, ready to give them hell in the waters of Key West Harbor. I should specify that the Republican Navy consisted of a small number of fireboats and private sailing vessels. But they would give them hell nonetheless. As they approached US Navy and Coast Guard ships, the Conchs let out a devastating barrage of water, sprayed with their anti-fire hoses. Before the US sailors could react, the Conch Navy unleashed a volley of water balloons, stale Cuban bread, and, of course, Conch Fritters. This naval blitzkrieg was too much to endure, and the US fleet raised the white flag. I expect those poor sailors later suffered from PTSD. While the battle was raging at sea, a land invasion was being met with fierce resistance. The 478th Battalion were merrily preparing to cross the bridge that would take them onto Key West, but a force of 200 unarmed Conchs blocked their path. No US Army boots would violate the sacred soil of the Conch Republic, unless they politely asked permission to do so, of course. Which is what happened the following day. The Army sent a letter addressed to Key West officials stating that the exercise in no way meant to challenge or impugn the sovereignty of the Conch Republic. This will let everybody know that tensions would flare up again merely 3 months later. On December the 16th, the federal government entered a shutdown period caused by conflicts between President Clinton and the majority Republican Congress. The shutdown implied that the government would close all major national monuments. One of them was Fort Jefferson at Dry Tortugas National Park, some 66 nautical miles west of Key West. Closing the fort was bad news for the Keys, as they could lose up to $30,000 a day in tourism revenue, $55,000 in today's money. Key West officials, Secretary Anderson, and local entrepreneurs estimated that operating Fort Jefferson cost only $1,600 a day. So how about they took over it? It was definitely worth the investment. They were able to raise the necessary funds, but needed state and federal permission to take over the monument. As time wore on, the investors could not get a hold of anybody able to authorize their request. So, in pure Conch fashion, they took matters into their own hands. Anderson assembled a small team, flew them to Fort Jefferson, and approached the local park rangers, declaring that the monument was now open in the name of the Conch Republic. This was not a hostile takeover, however, as the Conch offered a check to the rangers so that they could reopen the fort. But the rangers were not amused. They refused to reopen the monument and issued a citation to the Conchs for trespassing on federal property. Tail between their legs, the Conch Republic's air raid party flew back to Key West. Yes, you can't win every battle. But at least the Rangers dropped their charges. After a decade of peace, the Conchs and the Feds butted heads again in January of 2006. 15 Cuban refugees had landed on an abandoned span of 7-mile bridge, the winding road bridge connecting the Florida Keys. Their demand for asylum was rejected on the basis that the abandoned span was not connected to dry land and, therefore, it was not American soil. On hearing such news, Anderson pricked his ears. If that part of the bridge was not American soil, surely it was up for grabs. And so he led a force of Conchs onto the bridge section, planting flags of the Republic all along it. Anderson had successfully occupied the bridge with ambitious plans to turn it into a model green community with composting toilets, wind and solar power, rainwater collection, like living on a boat, really. Washington did not oppose the peaceful invasion, nor Anderson's grand designs. It was Florida Governor Jeb Bush instead who issued a communique stating that the bridge belonged to the people of Florida and the state was not planning to sell it. Having heard these stories of the Conch Republic antics, one may be tempted to join their fold. If you'd like to apply for citizenship, you may do so at one of their consulates abroad. This state's the king of dad jokes. You don't need to be born on their territory, nor be born from a Conch parent. Prospective citizens, however, may be subjected to a background check for their beliefs and actions. In particular, the Republic encourages a certain type of individual to apply for this honor. They will welcome free thinkers capable of solving complex problems with simplicity, those who are accepting of others but cynical towards governments as a whole, anyone who feeds the poor, better if with Happy Meals or Whoppers. The Republic is also looking to swell its ranks with pirates, salvagers, beachcombers, hippies, beatniks, and hobos, past or present. On the other hand, Conch authorities reserve the right to reject politicians, bureaucrats, bigots, zealots, extremists, warmongers, and lawyers, especially ambulance chasers. Being a citizen comes with privileges as well as duties. One of them is homeland defense. Each citizen of the Conch Republic, aged between 2 and 99 years old, is required to serve in the Conch National Guard. Conch guards are required to always maintain a personal arsenal consisting of loaves of stale Cuban bread, a fishing net, a tickle stick to catch lobsters, and a quart of pre-mixed margaritas. Other drinks are allowed. The Republic's military is regulated by a strict set of rules, which you may find on their official website at conchrepublicmilitaryforces.com. Here are some articles of note. Article 5, membership. Membership in these armed forces shall never be based on a person's race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, political persuasion, religion, or any other criteria. And Article 15, duels. If any member of these forces considers themselves to be offended by any other member, he may challenge the offending party to a duel. The traditional weapons which may be used are limited to water guns, water balloons, conch fritters, stale Cuban bread, and key lime pie. The second website mentions that the Republic's armed forces include a detachment of Green Berets, Special Forces, and even CIA. But the acronym does not refer to the intelligence agency, but to Cuties In Action, an organization of local ladies dedicated to community service projects. Now, it may not be to everyone's taste to serve as a Conch Green Beret, but fear not, you can still pledge allegiance to the Republic without requesting full-fledged citizenship. In fact, you can apply for a souvenir passport via the Republic's official website. For $100, you can even bag a regular passport. And if you dish out $1,200, you'll receive a snazzy diplomatic passport. Secretary General Anderson claims to have traveled with his diplomatic passport to at least 30 nations, including Russia. The passport was regularly inspected and stamped each time, and no objections were raised by border guards. According to Jennifer Babson of the Miami Herald, Anderson used the Conch Republic passport to go through U.S. immigration on at least 5 occasions between 1994 and 1998. The same newspaper in October 2001 reported that the FBI was investigating a more sinister use of a Conch travel document. Apparently, in the fall of 2000, one Mohammed Atta had applied for a Republic passport and may have used it to enter the US. It was never determined if that applicant was the same Mohammed Atta who crashed American Airlines Flight 11 into the North Tower of the World Trade Center on 9/11. What we know with more certainty is that a passport may have saved someone's life. Sometime in the 1980s, Conch passport holder Bud Navarro took a trekking trip to Guatemala, despite it being a dangerous destination. Since 1960, the country had been gripped by a bloody civil war between the central government backed by the US and the leftist Guatemalan National Revolutionary Unit supported by Cuba. One day, Bud walked into a small mountain village and entered the local cantina for a well-deserved rest. But as soon as the doors closed behind Bud, several pairs of hostile eyes turned towards him. The bar was bursting with angry, heavily armed men, leftist guerrillas who had identified the stranger as a hated American. Bud was not fluent in Spanish, but he could recognize the hostility of the words directed at him, a mix of ethnic slurs and inferences as to the profession of his mother. As the angry mob advanced towards him, Bud had the presence of spirit to produce his Conch passport and then shouted, "Americano no, Republica de la Concha." His declaration of allegiance to the separatist state puzzled the horde long enough to stop their murderous intent. With whatever little Spanish he knew, Bud managed to charm the revolutionaries with the epic story of Conch secession. And what may have been a lynching ended up with a massive hangover from tequila. As of today, the US and the Conch Republic enjoy peaceful relations. The mock micronation still attracts tourists, especially during the celebrations commemorating the secession. Festivities are held every year around mid-April and include parades, street parties, and fundraisers. At the time of producing this episode, the Conch Republic is approaching its 40th anniversary, a landmark event to be celebrated from April the 15th to the 24th. The 2022 anniversary event will include bar crawls, pirate adventures, conch shell blowing contests, and the marvelously oxymoronic elections of the Conch Republic royal family. But the highlight will be, as in previous years, the Great Conch Republic Drag Race, in which participants will race with pimped-up shopping carts and buggies while carrying female impersonators. We hope that today's overview of the sovereign state of mind has lifted your spirit and inspired you to face adversary with the right cocktail of defiance and ridicule. More than anything, we hope to have captured the spirit of the Conch Republic and its proud inhabitants, as summarized by the current Secretary of State, Captain James R. Gilleran. The value of humor, community, and a passion to encourage others to behave in a proud and foolish manner.